Good afternoon. Welcome to Studio One on this Thursday, October 22nd. It's good to have you with us. I'm Tom Buring. Up ahead on this half hour, we'll be joined by one of the nation's leading experts in space exploration and development, Dr. David Webb. Also joining us, leading soprano with the San Francisco Western Opera Theater, Nikkel. And on our Open Doors segment, the pride and joy of America during the 1984 Olympics, figure skater and former gold medalist Scott Hamilton. But first, with every edition of Studio One, we go to the news desk with Courtney Bateman. Courtney?
Thank you, Tom. With one commercial airline crash and 860 near collisions this year, airlines are losing their image of being a safe way to travel. But Studio One reporter Kelly Evenson says technology is catching up to the problem.
When deregulation went into effect in 1978, airlines were no longer limited in the number of scheduled flights per day, putting a heavy burden on some of the already busy major airports. For the consumer, deregulation has meant lower airfares, but is the trade-off safety? With the increasing number of delayed and canceled flights, baggage that doesn't arrive with its owner, and crowded airways resulting in planes nearly colliding, one has to wonder if it is worth it to fly these days. Bill Shea, the chairman of the Department of Aviation at the University of North Dakota and former FAA official, seems to think so. He says despite the problems, the air traffic control system and the air transport system in the U.S. are the best in the world. Still, there is room for improvement, and demanding attention is the number of planes nearly colliding in mid-air, particularly in the last year. Shea says the new, soon-to-be-installed air traffic avoidance equipment should eliminate that problem.
Now, with airlines in the future having traffic collision avoidance capability on board, that will be very, very important, obviously, because an airliner going in this direction and one coming in this direction, the signal will go off immediately of the proximity of each other's aircraft, so that one would go up and one would get down, or one would turn left and one would go right.
Recent advancements in weather reporting will allow for better predicting of wind shears and storm activity, increasing safety and decreasing the number of delayed flights. And although pilots will be better trained with the use of new flight simulators, we are entering an age of automated pilots and satellite navigation. Under the FAA's National Airspace System plan, airplanes will be navigated by satellite, virtually eliminating conversation between the air tower and pilot.
Takes off, say, going from New York to Los Angeles. Once she or he, the captain, rolls out on the active runway, they say goodbye to the tower and they take off. The next time they chat will be after they pull off the active runway in Los Angeles International. So that's how sophisticated and computerized it's going to be.
But increasing the capacity of existing airports is not enough. Reliever airports, small airports built around a major airport, will be built as part of a national plan to receive the overflow. With technological advances in weather reporting, collision avoidance equipment, and a satellite navigation system making air travel safer, the disadvantages should no longer outweigh the advantages of deregulation. Kelly Evenson, Studio One News.
Wall Street and World Series watchers have been through the ringer lately. Both the market and the Minnesota Twins posted discouraging losses in the last few days. And while the Dow Jones made a comeback yesterday, the Twins were not so fortunate, dropping their second game in a row to the St. Louis Cardinals. As for today's results, the market lost 77.5 points on heavy trading. The Twins? Well, game time is 7:30, and we'll see then. Tom?
Putting you on the spot. Who's going to do it tonight?
I'm betting on Bert. Take the Twins.
Bert Blyleven and Danny Cox on the mound tonight. That'll be interesting. Of course, NFL regular players are back to heighten Sunday's schedule of football. Several teams will attempt to redeem what damage the replacement teams have done to their win-loss records. And football at Memorial Stadium Saturday as the University of North Dakota hosts the University of Nebraska-Omaha with a 1:30 kickoff. Turning to the weather, meteorologist Jay Searle joins us. Jay?
Thank you, Tom. As of 4 in Grand Forks, the sky is overcast. The winds are northeast at 5 miles per hour, and the temperature is 34 degrees. Taking a look across the nation, yesterday's high was a balmy 96 degrees in the desert southwest of Arizona, and the nation's low this morning was a very chilly 6 degrees in Gunnison, Colorado. On the East Coast, an area of high pressure stretches from New England down through the south central U.S. A number of record lows were set down there this morning. Temperatures have since rebounded back into the 40s and 50s. Across the west this morning, an area of high pressure over the northern Rockies brought cool and dry conditions to the Rockies and through much of the west. Temperatures this afternoon are nice and pleasant in the desert southwest. Temperatures are in the 80s there. Temperatures along the coast are in the lower 60s and 70s from California, and the 50s up over the Washington and the northwest coast. Fog is also stretching as the system moves in off the Pacific, bringing some rain through southern California. In the central U.S., Storm system that was over South Dakota moved across South Dakota into southern Minnesota overnight, bringing some fog and some light snow across our region. Yesterday we had some very heavy snow move across the upper peninsula of Michigan. Lake effect snows brought 16 inches to parts of UP and as parts of northern Wisconsin. We can expect this system to continue to moving on. The next system is already on the map, bringing cloudy conditions in with it and some foggy areas of fog as well. Temperatures are in the 20s and 30s across North Dakota and the 40s across southern Minnesota. That's what it looks like across the country. I'm meteorologist Jay Searles, and I'll be back a little bit later in the program. Tom?
Okay, thank you, Jay. Plenty of variety to choose from in way of entertainment at the Chester Fritz. It's opera tonight at 8:15 with the performance of Don Pasquale, presented by the San Francisco Western Opera Theater. I know I butchered that name, but let's move on. Tomorrow night with an 8:15 start, it'll be music and comedy, mostly comedy, with the Smothers Brothers performing. And on Monday, the 26th, contemporary Christian music with DeGarmo and Key in concert. Tickets for each event are available at the Chester Fritz and all Centig outlets. When we return, we'll talk space development with Dr. David Webb here on Studio One.
Charles Bronson isn't happy.
Sure takes guts to vandalize parks or beat up on trees. But that's what some jerks are doing to our public lands. Only the land can't fight back. But we can. We can save our lands, you and me. Let's face it, someone who gets his kicks punching out flowers shouldn't be too much of a match for us.
Write Take Pride in America. Post Office Box 1339, Jessup, Maryland 20794.
All this week on the golden years of television, it's Racket Squad.
There are people who can slap you on the back with one hand and pick your pocket with the other.
Oh, my leg! I caught my shoe in the rug.
Yes, it's outright carelessness to leave a rug that way.
You'd think a hotel with this reputation would watch those things.
You certainly would.
Is it a scam?
Yeah, it took me 5 years to dream this one up.
And what's this? It's a case for the Racket Squad on the golden years of television, all this week on NCTV.
Welcome back. Our next guest is an authority on space agenda for the United States. He's a part of a 15-member committee appointed by the President and consults on various aspects of space policy and development. Dr. David Webb is also a chairman of the nation's first, only, and largest space studies program in the nation. Good to have you with us, Dr. Webb.
Thank you.
And congratulations.
Thank you.
That's quite an honor, being the first, the only, and the largest.
Well, when we say space studies, of course, there are space science programs. It's a particular type of program. We've started here at the University of North Dakota, and it is the first of its type anywhere in the country, in the world for that matter.
And many would think that North Dakota is kind of a funny place to put a space program. However, it's obviously right now it's the best place to put it.
I certainly think so, and if you think all great revolutions start in the hinterland, so we're in a good place to start.
Apart from space advances, a lot of things are going to be happening locally up ahead. This as a catalyst to what's going on. Can you share a little bit about what you foresee?
Certainly. As you know, our space studies program is a graduate program at a master's degree level as well as an undergraduate, and we have started, only last month, we have 145 graduate students already registered, which is really a very significant indication of the interest in space in the country as a whole. One of the very interesting things we're involved in is we're preparing a major proposal to NASA to start a space engineering research center here, which will look into the exploration, the development, and the mining and the processing of materials on the moon. And we hope to build here, right at the university, a full-scale lunar materials and mining and processing plant in the engineering center, which would then be disassembled and reassembled on the moon in about 10 years' time. It's a very large project. It'll be very intriguing.
When we're also talking about space studies, from what I understand, from what I've heard you share before, it also could do wonders for the North Dakota economy. Is that not right?
Well, it certainly could. We have another major project underway in which it's the establishment of the first node in a global information data system. And we would need to have a supercomputer here at the university, which we're talking about and discussing with various computer manufacturers right now. And this would enable North Dakota to become, as it is centrally located right in the North American continent, it could be the ideal place to take satellite information, satellite data, and turn that into information that would be useful to users all around the world, and then electronically disseminated via satellite uplinks right from the center here. And I hope we will get into that. It's a long project, it's a big project. North Dakota is ideal for this because it is a small state. It is widely spread out. There are towns and villages which could be electronically all linked together, and all of this could be done and handled literally like a cottage industry. So we would like to have a go at that, and I think it would be a useful thing.
Dr. Webb, is the American public getting more aware of where we're at in our space program?
They're getting more aware, at least of the negative side of where we're at, and I think that that's very important because the public tends to react when they sense that we're in a crisis situation. And we have been in a crisis situation for a number of years in our space program. It was not generally recognized until just recently, when certainly the media and Time magazine and Newsweek have had cover stories on it, and now it's more generally recognized, and maybe we'll do something again.
Now, if we're to advance our program, would it be wise to try to hurry our pace in following up in the footsteps of the Soviets who have left us behind? Or should we go on another course and try to
we should do our own thing. The Soviets are doing their thing, and they're doing it in a very highly planned and very steady basis, and it's a very admirable program. It would be very unwise of us, I think, to try and compete with them. We need to do our own thing, particularly returning to the moon, learning how to live and develop a new planetary surface, learn to be able to grow food, learn to be able to mine and manufacture and send materials out into outer space, learn to process them in outer space, learn to live in outer space, and then go to Mars and then the asteroids, and that's the solar system. We'd have it then.
Learning to live in space, that somewhat reflects the study of space studies. We know how to get there, but what do we do when we get there? Is that
That's
the motivation?
a big question. Certainly it's a major motivation in our program here in trying to learn and develop and teach that, and also we have to learn how are we going to live in a physiological sense and a psychological sense in a very tough alien environment. It's very hard on the human body to have different levels of gravity. We don't really know what the full impacts of those are. Certainly they're negative. It's very difficult. Most of the long-term astronauts and cosmonauts have adverse physiological implications, heart arrhythmia, different blood corpuscles, disorientation for a long period after they return to Earth. These are negatives. We've got to learn about them. We don't know about them.
When we talk about living in space, I would think that it would tend to be more optimistic, even in hopes of world peace. Now, we can't seem to resolve it here. Do you think approaching a science such as space, could we resolve world peace by looking back on our globe and seeing how little it is?
Well, it's a great hope, and of course we do have a brand new piece of paper to write on, and we are starting, and we are trying to do this in an international and cooperative way. Whether or not we can do that remains to be seen. We've never been able to yet develop another frontier without fighting about it. This one is so big and we are so small that it rather pushes us towards doing this cooperatively, if only for economic reasons. And there is no doubt that in the next few years we've got to learn to cooperate or we won't go at all. And that goes for this nation and indeed for the Soviets as it does for others. But it has terrestrial implications, and SDI is an obvious example of that, and certainly the equivalent Soviet defense program is the same kind of thing. I don't know what that is going to do to us when we do get out into space, but I hope we will go peacefully. It's the only way to do it.
Yeah, it's an exciting project. It sounds
Thank you very
optimistic.
much.
Thanks so much, Dr. David Webb. Chairman of the Space Studies Program at the University of North Dakota, Dr. David Webb. When we return, our Open Doors segment, so stay with us. Now, few can compare with the ability and charisma Scott Hamilton exudes when stepping out onto the ice. The winner of 4 consecutive titles at the U.S. National Figure Skating Championship and a gold medalist at the 1984 Winter Olympics still skates with effortless showmanship and grace. Today in our Open Door segment, we go ringside and talk with this part entertainer, part athlete, part dancer about the sport of figure skating and some Olympic memories.
84 was a tough Olympics for me because I went in, a lot of the press said that I was the lock and that I was the one that had to win and that I was going to win. And when you start reading your own press, you start to believe things and it affects your performance. And so the whole time I was there, I thought I had this little gold medal hanging around my neck that somebody might take away from me. So it was real hard to just focus in on the skating. I loved the whole year. I trained harder than I've ever trained. I was in better shape than I've ever been in my life. I felt great. I was skating well. I knew that this was my year and I had to be responsible. I had to hit it as hard as I could because there's no second chance. There's no well, I could have, I should have, I would have. I didn't want one of those ever to come up in any conversation or any interview or anything after the Olympics. I said, no, I did, and I could, and I would, and I should, and I did everything that I had to do. So it was a difficult Olympics. I had a funny thing. After I won my medal, President Reagan was trying to call me for a day and a half. And I was never around. I was always seeing other events and hanging around the village. And finally he got a hold of me, and it was so intimidating because, it's the president on the phone. Oh, sure. Hi, how you doing, Mr. President? Oh my God, it's actually him. It's like this voice you hear on television, on radio. Well, I just on behalf of, and I didn't know what to say. So the conversation was real short, and I was totally intimidated. But that's about of everything. That was the funniest thing that happened, and one of I still can't watch the medal ceremony on video. I just lose it. And the exhibitions at the end of the closing ceremonies were one of the most incredible, special memories I'll have from the Olympics.
Do figure skaters get a bad rap in terms of not being labeled athletic? More of dancers, more of gymnasts?
It's it's kind of a rap. You got some of these, I'm so-and-so Channel 4 tough guy on sports, and figure skating, it's not, it's an art. Well, that's irresponsible, and it's idiotic because nobody's busting heads, or nobody, it's not a team thing, or if it is so difficult. But the funny thing about it is you're supposed to make it look easy. And once you accomplish making your skating as good as it can be, it no longer looks difficult. So the general person, sportscaster that doesn't understand the sport just thinks it's fluff. If they ever got on the ice, they'll learn differently because it's hard. And hockey is a whole different style of skating than figure skating. Hockey is end-to-end, fast, speed, control, power, bigness. I mean, you have to be big to be a hockey player anymore. In figure skating, you have to be generally smaller, under 6 foot, definitely, and to be in singles anyway. And there's a lot of control, balance. It's gymnastics on ice, basically, in a lot of ways, and it's very difficult. It takes a lot of balance, a lot of strength, and a lot of showmanship. It's not just what you can do on the ice, it's how well you present it, and I think that's where a lot of the misunderstanding comes from.
So a little bit of entertaining then.
Well, it's a show-off sport. That's the way it started. You go out and you show what you can do on the ice, and because of the fact that there's so many facets to figure skating, whether it be day-to-day training, the competitive side of it, amateur show skating, and the professional skating. It's all different. You can have 5 different world champions, and they'll be doing something totally unique, and they'll never see each other. So it's at times confusing, but it's a wonderful sport, and there's so many things that haven't been done with it before. And this type of show is a unique concept, and it's going to change the way the professional side of the sport works a little bit.
Do you thrive on that, Scott, with the fact that figure skating is more individualistic rather than a team effort? Going back to the '84 Olympics, did that work to your advantage? Do you thrive on that type of competition?
I loved competition. I liked, I didn't always have to win. I always liked knowing where I stood and just tried to be there or a little better. And whether it was 1st, 5th, 8th, 30th. I just try to go for what I know I could do, and that way you can always take pride in your accomplishment, you know, unless you really blow it, and then you got something to learn from. I like the individual aspect of figure skating because I don't have to depend on anybody else, and nobody else has to depend on me. I like not having the responsibility of, if I have an awful night, if I just have the worst possible day, I'm going to drag down a bunch of other people with me. And I really don't, I don't operate that way. I do what I do, and I'll live with my victories and my failures.
Scott Hamilton, who adds that the U.S. will be well represented in figure skating at the '88 Calgary Winter Olympics. For your information today and tomorrow, National College Alcohol Awareness Week is going on. There are information tables set up at the Union Lobby on the university campus with event listings that will carry over into next week. When we return, we'll meet Lorinda Nikkel of the San Francisco Western Opera Theater.
The forest is home to many living things. That's why, if you're careless with fire when you go to the forest, you could burn a lot more than trees.
Welcome back. Tonight in for the performance of Don Pasquale is the Western Opera Theater. It's the same opera theater company who were the first American professional opera company to perform in the People's Republic of China this last March. It's our privilege to have soprano Lorinda Nikkel join us. Lorinda, it's good to have you with us.
Thank you.
When you're a soprano, is it kind of an assumed thing that you get the lead roles?
No, not necessarily. There are 4 leads in this show right now, so everybody gets a big part.
And as I understand, you have got to rotate about every other 2 or 3 performances?
But every 3 performances, yeah. When we travel with 3 different casts, so each part has 3 people that do it. And so I don't do every show. For example, I'm not singing the lead in the show tonight.
Now, is that kind of to break up the routine a little bit for you, or is it most concerned for your voice?
No, it's concerned for the voice. When you sing opera, it takes a lot of energy, and the vocal cords are just not built to sing night after night. You'll find that more in musical theater, but no, we need a break.
Do you, so you simply rest it then today and tomorrow, or will you during the day do something with it?
I rehearsed today. Our orchestra just arrived from San Francisco last night, so we've been traveling without them so far. So we did what we call a Sitzprobe today, which is we just get together in a room and we don't walk through the show. And so I did that rehearsal, and the girl that's going to sing tonight's got to stay home and rest today.
Are people in opera, are they considered extremely gifted musicians, or do they work hard at what they do?
Both. Oh, we're all extremely gifted.
Naturally, of course.
No, I don't think there's anybody working in this field today that is not gifted. But also, you know, I think it's really true that the cream rises to the top. People who work hard, you know, usually end up working. There are people who know the right people who are working and that kind of thing, and that happens just as it happens in every field. But I really believe if you work hard and you have a lot of talent, that there's a place for you.
Now, when you go into it, do you go with the sole intention that you want to be in the opera, or is it kind of a, if I get there, I get there? I would think that you'd have to have some type of drive, considering the hard work you have to put into it.
Oh yeah, I think you'll find people with all different kinds of drives. I mean, some people, you know, want only to do the lead. Some people want to just make a living singing. It varies with the person.
How much of it is theatrics and how much is music? Do you have to have a great deal of training in theater?
I think you should. I think that opera should be a very good balance between music and theater. I don't want to see people standing up just singing. That's a concert to me. That's not a drama. And I like to think that opera is drama. We are people up there, and you have to know how to portray that just like someone would in a play.
Now, you went to China. You were involved in the same group, although a different performance. You went to China last March. How were you received over in China?
Oh, wonderfully. It was a really incredible experience. The people there are really hungry for Western culture. We did La Bohème last year, and it was a different group of people. I'm with the same company this year again, but myself and 2 other people are back with the company this year, but they just really ate up everything we did. They wanted to watch how we warmed up and how we practiced and how we performed, and they wanted to practice their English with us. It was really wonderful. We had some really strong ties that we built.
Was that a fresh change from other audiences? Are other audiences just as hungry to get opera?
Oh, I don't think in the same way, because we're exposed to it a lot more in Europe and here in the United States. They've been without Western culture for a long time until since the Revolution.
How about in the United States? Would you consider our country pretty eager for opera, or are we kind of culturally maybe a couple steps behind Europe? Don't we appreciate it like other nations do?
I think we're beginning to appreciate it more. I think we need to be able to expose opera more in this country, and I think that's what we're trying to do with this company, with the Western Opera Theater. We travel to places that don't have their own opera companies, where we can, play to audiences that wouldn't ordinarily get to see opera without traveling a long ways. I wish that opera was more convenient for more people. It's a very expensive thing to do. It's not like going to a movie or going to a baseball game or something like that. I would like it to become, more of the everyman's art. It would be nice.
If it was, say, less expensive, the issue then isn't necessarily, well, if it is expense, is it not then a lacking for appreciation for the art? Would we appreciate it?
Oh, I think so. I've had a lot of friends that would never go see an opera except because they're my friends. They come to see it and walk away and say, this is really fun. I want to go and see another opera now. And most people will poo-poo opera because they've never been to see one. They really don't know what it's about. But I think that a lot of people would really love it if they had a chance to see it. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to bring it to more people.
Okay, Lorinda, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And rest your voice today.
Okay, I will.
Soprano Lorinda Nikkel of the San Francisco Western Opera Theater. We'll be back with more Studio One after this.
We give you the truth. Uncensored. Powerful documentaries every week.
South Africa belongs to all the people who live in it, not to one group, be it black or white.
I'm too old. I'm too fat.
We're a long way from equality in any field.
Uncensored. Discover it every week on NCTV.
You, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, do solemnly swear.
I, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, do solemnly swear.
I will faithfully execute the office of the Presidency of the United States.
The office of the Presidency of the United States.
And will, to the best of my ability,
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution of the United States.
So help me God.
The Constitution, the words we live by.
Meteorologist Jay Searles is here to tell us about our forecast. Jay?
Thank you, Tom. Taking a look at the map for tomorrow morning, we have that area of low pressure that was moving in off the map on our surface map that I looked at earlier is moving into southern Manitoba, spreading cloudiness and snow across our region. Temperatures tomorrow will be quite a bit cooler tomorrow morning, 21 degrees forecast here, cooler out west with temperatures in the upper teens, lower teens. And down through the southwest, southeast, we have temperatures in the upper 20s and lower 30s through the region. Cloudiness will continue across the tri-state region all day tomorrow as this low pressure system moves across. Forecast in extent will be for tonight. We can expect cloudy skies with light snow flurries and a low of 23 degrees. And the winds will be out of the northeast at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Friday night will be mostly cloudy with a high of 37 degrees and the winds will be northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Under clearing skies on Saturday, we can expect highs in the low 40s. Then on Sunday, we can expect sunny skies with temperatures in the upper 40s. That's the weekend forecast. Tom?
Okay, thanks, Jay. Sounds good. We'd like to thank our guests, Dr. David Webb, Lorinda Nikkel, and Scott Hamilton for being a part of us today. From all of us here at Studio One, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.